Chapter 18. Yeah, one little thing to do in the Bible next week, but I forgot to bring it. We'll finish it up next week. Okay, somebody read 1 through 4.
Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, "When will you end these speeches? Be sensible, and then we can talk. Why are you regarded as cattle? Why are we regarded as cattle and considered stupid in your sight? You who tear yourself to pieces in your anger, is the earth to be abandoned for your sake, or must the rocks be moved from their place?"
Okay. This is the second round with these guys. The first round, there was a legitimate concern for Job and his plight and his predicament. And Job didn't seem to want to buy into what they were selling him. So the second time around, they're defending their theology. They're defending their argument. And it becomes a debate. The third time around, which we'll get to maybe this year, maybe. The third time around is all about me. They get a little personal in these, but they get real personal later on. First, you wouldn't listen to the truth, and then they debate the truth, and then it's who do you think you are to tell me I'm wrong? If you're in a predicament with another person, and you're having a heated discussion about maybe John 3:16, what's the first thing you ought to ask yourself?
Am I right?
Exactly right. Am I right? Am I right? Not, is he wrong? Well, what is the first thing we usually think about? Well, this guy don't know what he's talking about. Well, I've been teaching Sunday school since I was 25 years old. Don't ask my wife about that. He said when I was 25 it was extremely boring. Maybe I'm still extremely boring. But, you know, and I might look at you and say, well, who are you to correct me? I've been doing this for 40 years. Or, like we talked about last year, I might be wrong. I might be saying 15 instead of 50. And it was an honest mistake, but it was a mistake. And if you go from what I was saying about 15 and try to apply the rest of the sermon to it, it made no sense whatsoever. And so it was good for Tom to stop me and say, Bill, I think you're reading that wrong. And I looked back at it and I realized I'd been saying 15, 15, 15, 15, and the Bible was saying 50, 50, 50, 50. But I was thinking ahead and I was checking my notes and my tongue was carrying on and my mind was doing something else. Okay? Honest mistake. And probably nobody's going to be led astray because of 15 and 50, but everybody was going to say, that didn't make a bit of sense when the sermon was over, because it didn't. It didn't. So it needed to be corrected. Well, there are now in this line, they're going to be debating whether they're right or whether they're right. And the bottom line is, if I'm into it with Don or if I'm into it with Josh, and we're having this big discussion and neither one of us are agreeing, one of us is wrong, right? I mean, the truth can only go one way. And if I'm saying this is truth and you're saying, no, that's not truth, this is truth, one of us or both of us are wrong. Correct? Correct. I mean, the truth can only go one way. Now, if we're both wrong, well, you can go anywhere you want to. It's not going to make any difference. But if one of us has the truth, then we have to ask ourselves which one of us could be wrong, because it's like telling a lie. You got to remember what you said. You realize if you're telling the truth, you don't have to remember what you said, because truth never changes. Lies change a lot. It's a whole lot easier to tell the truth because you don't have to keep track of it. It'll be the truth today, it'll be the truth tomorrow, and it'll be the truth 10 years from now. Okay. All right, so Bildad the Shunammite gets into this. Bildad Shunammite gets into this, and he said, when will you end these speeches? In other words, when will you quit talking and listen to what we have to say? What should he be saying? Well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I ought to think this over again. Maybe I ought to check it out, because there is a possibility that you're right and I'm wrong. Isn't it? Be sensible, and then we can talk. What you really saying?
Shut up.
Shut up and agree with me. Yeah, shut up, let me talk. And not go under, take it for what it's worth. What's the danger in that kind of a ministry or that kind of a shepherd? Shut up and don't challenge me, shut up and take everything I say for gospel. How do you think 900 people ended up drinking Kool-Aid in Guinea, in the jungle, and feeding it to their kids? How do you think 900 people did that? Because he said, shut up and listen to me. Don't go reading the Bible. Don't check anything out. Just follow me blindly wherever you go, and I'll get you there. Well, he got him there. And then the guy with the comet, and then the Texas thing.
Our president. Our president.
Who's gonna get us there?
Nobody researched that.
You have no idea how hard I have to bite my tongue to not get into politics. Oh, jeez. Our president, you're right. You know, if it hasn't worked for 4 years, shouldn't you stop and say, did I do the right thing and could I do it better? Or just forward. Well, no more politics. Sorry, it's okay. Why are we regarded as cattle and considered stupid in your sight? Now, has Job to this point called them stupid? No. He has answered their response with his response. They've laid down a premise, and he's laid down a premise, but he's not got personal about this. They're the ones that are getting personal. There's an old Quaker saying in the French church, "Methinketh thou protesteth too loud, brother." Methinketh thou protesteth too loud, brother. When Jesus was innocent and stood 5 trials in front of 4 different magistrates, how much defending did he have to do for himself? How much argument was there? It said over and over again, and he spoke not a word, and he spoke not a word, and he spoke not a word. Because like my grandpa used to say, the truth does not require much noise. The truth is the truth. You state it, you're done. It will stand on its own. Now, if I'm trying to sell you a pitcher of Kool-Aid, I might have to make a lot of noise for a long time. But the truth is very simple. John 3:16 is very simple, and it pretty much sums up the whole Bible. Doesn't it? The bottom line is God so loved the world, and he sent his only begotten Son. And the rest of the Bible just talks pretty much about different aspects of that and how we got there. The whole Bible's about Jesus. The Old Testament, the New Testament, and every verse in between. It starts with Jesus. He was the creator. It ends with Jesus. He's the victor and the Lion of Judah. And everything in between, in one way or another, talks about Jesus. or some aspect of him, or some way that we arrived at Jesus. Prophecies concerning him. He hasn't called them cattle, and he hasn't considered, and he hasn't called them stupid. Why do you suppose he would say something like that if it was never said?
That's how he felt.
Hmm?
That's how he felt, I guess.
Yeah. He feels that way. And why do you suppose he feels that way?
Because he's trying to defend his position.
Right?
Right
And
or wrong.
right? He's trying to project his position, and he got challenged, and now he's got to defend it. Defend it. You who tear yourself to pieces in your anger, is the earth to be abandoned for your sake? Where did that come from? You who tear yourself to pieces in your anger. Did you watch any of the, here we go again, did you watch any of the Republican convention?
I didn't cover it.
There was a lady spoke by the name of Mia Love. She's a mayor of a town in New Mexico or Nevada. I think it's New Mexico. And she's young. She's like 28, 29 years old. And she's came from Haiti, and she's a black girl. And absolutely brilliant speech. Fun, attractive, smart. And I mean, she just absolutely took the place by storm. And then there was a woman by the name of Gomez from out in the same area. And she was older, she was in her 40s maybe. And brilliant speech, beautiful speech, smart, and then there was 3 or 4 other guys, and I mean, I hate politics, and I hate the lies, and they all lie. The Republicans tell the Republicans what they want to hear, and the Democrats tell the Democrats what they want to hear, and you're in the middle trying to sort out lies in the end. But they kept talking about these people, and they were new, and they had pictures of them, and so I thought, you know, I've never watched a convention, but I'm going to watch these speeches. And I mean, they were just uplifting and hopeful and vibrant, and when it was all over, the New York Times headline was, Republican convention turns angry. There was not an angry word said Wednesday night. Not an angry word said. These beautiful, eloquent, hopeful speeches by some very respectable people. And the headlines of the New York paper is, the convention turns angry.
Maybe it's what Clint Eastwood said.
They were looking in the mirror. They were mad because, the day before, the big headline was Romney hates women. Well, you got to vote your conscience, and you got to vote your heart. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote. Get all the information you can and make the best decision you can. But, Romney hates women, and then all these great speeches from all these great, successful women. The one came from Haiti. Her mom and dad had a $10 bill in their pocket when they made the shore. And the other one came up from Mexico, and same kind of a story. They had to walk across the border, and they had to walk to where they could find a job and whatever. And they were all extremely successful. They all sent their kids to college in America. They all, their parents were successful. These these people who were speaking was successful. And it was so hopeful and so brilliant. And convention turns angry. Well, that's what this guy says. Why are you so angry? You tear yourself to pieces by your anger? Well, same thing happened Wednesday night. They saw the same speech as I saw, but because something about it made them angry, they projected their angry into the headline, because there wasn't anything angry Wednesday night. Now, I'm pretty negative when it comes to politics. If there's anything angry, I'd have seen it, because I don't like either side, really, a whole lot. I guess if you could vote that way, I'd call myself an independent. They did the same thing this guy did. They looked at this situation, they looked at Job and said, why are you so angry? When has Job been angry? Up to this point, when has he been angry? Yeah. Okay. Is the earth to be abandoned for your sake? Okay. What does that mean? Is the earth to be abandoned for your sake? Most people believe that it's referring to common sense. Are we to give up common sense for your sake? There's a passage of scripture back in the New Testament that said, the wisdom of God does not make sense to man, and the wisdom of man does not make sense to God. It makes him chuckle. Okay? And we put it a different way. It says, if you want to see God laugh, tell him your plan. And that's a cuter way of putting it. It says the same thing, has the same truth in it. But, how many times has God been leading you some direction or taking you through something or getting you someplace, and you're saying to yourself, this doesn't make sense, my whole life's falling apart, why do I have to go through this? Why is this not working? Why don't we have any money in the bank this month? Whatever the issue was. And then when it's all said and done, and you look back on it 6 months later, you say to yourself, I see what he was doing. That ever happened to you? Ever happened to you? Well, when you were neck deep in alligators, it didn't make a bit of sense. And you were saying, what happened to God? Where'd God go? And the next thing you know, you're looking back on it and saying, oh, I'm stronger now, and I'm financially better off now. And I didn't really want to do it that way, but I found out it was the right way to go. And so I won. Or must the rocks be moved from their place? Or must the rocks be moved from their place? There's a passage in the Bible that said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, go bury yourself in the ocean, and it'll do it. And so all the pessimists go out and say, go bury yourself in the ocean, and the mountain doesn't go anywhere, and they say, see, it doesn't work. We were going to camp one time, and this lady in church and I were going to be the counselors for our kids. I was going to have the guys, and she was going to have the girls. And she didn't want to go. She volunteered to go, and then after she volunteered to go, she wished she hadn't have volunteered. Ever done that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All the time. So she's walking up and she's looking for an excuse not to go. And she told this story in church after we got back from camp. She went to camp and she just absolutely had a great time. Had a great bunch of kids and they worshiped her. I mean, they just loved Sharon. But she's jogging down the road and she's trying to figure out a way to go to camp. And she was praying and she said, God, if you really want me to go to camp, before I get back home, let a snake crawl across the road in front of me. And she said, I got back home and I thought, I didn't see a snake, I don't have to go. And then she's sitting there and she always read a what do they call it?
Devotional. Devotional?
Yeah, devotion. She always read a devotional in the morning, so she's sitting there reading her devotional, and all of a sudden the thought came to her head, why didn't you pray that you wouldn't see a snake? A lot of times we set the situation up so it leans toward us without actually relinquishing ourselves to God and letting God be in charge. I mean, what do you think it means when it says, Lord Jesus? It means he's in charge. He's the Lord. Okay? And a lot of times we set it up so that we can be the Lord. Get off the throne, I want to sit there. And usually we don't do it on Sunday because we've been close to God in church, but along about Thursday, things start falling apart and we start taking charge because we don't have I always like the middle of the week service because it gets me focused back on what I'm supposed to be focusing on. Well, it says here, or must the rocks be moved from their place? Do you need to require something very difficult in order to prove this to you? And Job hasn't required anything. Job has listened to what they said and replied to what they said to him, and they're taking it very negative because he just simply hasn't agreed with it. Okay, we'll get into the next one.